Hello, welcome to our first reading wrap up of the year. I have made it my New Year's resolution to make a reading wrap up every single month and at least one reading vlog every single month. So hold me accountable if I'm not doing that. It's my goal. So far, so good. So in January, I have read 9 books, which, to be fair, is quite good for me. I usually read about 6 or 7, I want to say, but this month I was in the reading mood, like I was in the zone. Quite a good reading month, so that's exciting because I feel like last year was just not that great for me, and I feel like it was not great for a lot of people, but it's already starting off a lot better. And to ensure that, I reread a favourite of mine. I reread The Idiot by Elif. This actually kind of matches my shirt and my background, that's cute. This was, or is, I think, my favourite book. I read this exactly the same time last year, January 2022. And I just really craved rereading this, and also finally wanted to get to Either Or, which is the sequel to this. And that's the book that I'm currently reading. So there's a reading vlog coming for that. I've got nothing but great things to say about this. If you don't know what this is about a girl called Selin. She is a Turkish American girl. Her parents are immigrants, and we follow her as she attends her first year at Harvard. She loves learning, she loves reading, and then she meets this boy in her, I think it's Russian literature or just Russian class, I can't remember. But she meets this boy, she kind of develops a crush on him. It's a bit toxic, it's very realistic though, I think. If you've ever experienced a crush, or, well, specifically an unrequited crush, you'll probably relate to this. It's just so great. I think my favourite thing about this is the writing style. It's just so straightforward. It doesn't over-explain things. I'm not a big fan of flowery language, which I think why I appreciate this book so much, because there were so many things that underlined in this, but nothing that made me be like, oh, that's a bit cringe, like no one talks like that. It's just funny, it's relatable, it's the best thing I've ever read, so excited to get to the sequel. After that, I read Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, I think her name is, yeah. And the only reason I did that is because it was available at my library. I'm not sure, I've just seen this around and I was just kind of in the mood to listen to something cute. So everything that I'm saying about this, maybe bear in mind that I'm not the target audience for this. I am not a romance reader. This book just simply wasn't made for me. Saying that, I did think it was quite sweet, so if you are a romance reader, this could probably be something you enjoy. It's about a woman who works as a ghostwriter for quite an established romance author, and she goes to meet her new editor in New York. She's immediately attracted to him, of course, but the meeting doesn't go so well. Later on, she actually finds out that one of her family members has died, and she has to go home to kind of deal with the funeral, to be there with her family. And when she goes home, she sees her new editor as a ghost. I mean, it was fun to listen to, just maybe not something I'm going to ever think about again. After that, I read 3 books for my most recent reading vlog, reading the most popular or best books of 2022. I can't remember what I even called it. So that was Trust by Hernan Diaz, that was The Candy House by Jennifer Egan, and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. But just to give you a quick synopsis, I started off with Trust, which is a story told in 4 parts, all from different perspectives, and the further you get into the book, the more gets revealed. It's very clever writing. It plays with form a lot, which is something that I really enjoyed about this. It's about class, it's about wealth. It's one of those books where the less you know beforehand, the better. It's quite a unique reading experience, so I'll just go in as blindly as possible. After that, I read The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. It's about the tech industry, it's about the future, it's about now, it's about human connection. It's that's very broad, isn't it? It's set in a world where you can access other people's memories via this kind of cloud-like thing called Own Your Consciousness. So if you upload your own memories, you can also access other people's memories. It's being compared to Black Mirror quite a bit, which to a certain extent I see, but I also think that a lot of these kinds of books, like near future or like a parallel timeline sort of books, are being put into this category. But especially the beginning, like the first chapter, it's very Black Mirror-esque, but I think it kind of stops there. It's mostly about human connection is what I gathered from it. But again, if you want to have a more in-depth review, you can watch my reading blog on it. After that, I read everyone's favourite book, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. In this book, we follow Sam and Sadie. There are two main characters. They meet when they're children in a children's hospital. Sam is there because he was in quite a big accident, and Sadie is there because her sister has cancer. They meet, they play a lot of games together, and we follow them through, not actually their whole lives, but I think about 25 years, which is something that I really, really enjoyed about this book, that we get so much time with these characters. It's about games, it's about, again, the tech industry or the games industry. It's about passion, it's about the importance of hobbies, it's about friendship, it's about love. I really appreciated the lack of romance in this. Unfortunately, I didn't love it as much as everyone else seems to, but I know that I am in the minority because everyone else gives this 5 stars. After that, I was really in the mood for a thriller. Somehow I always tend to listen to thrillers on audiobook rather than read them. I don't know why, I really like consuming it in that form. So I read The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. Is that her name? Yes, it is her name. I enjoyed her last book, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. So I was excited to get to this one. This one opens with a friendship group. They're all quite close in college. They're very tight-knit until they meet one of their roommates' dads, who they get involved with. They're all really fascinated by him, but he manipulates them a lot. So later on, we get a timeline that's about 8 years in the future, I think. And our main character, Shay, she finds out that one of the girls, Laurel, has been found dead. It's been ruled as a suicide, but she believes that she was murdered. This is a really dark thriller. I don't really want to say much more than that because that would maybe go into spoilers a little bit, but I would definitely check the trigger warnings for this. There's a lot of violence against women and sexual abuse, so I would have a look into that beforehand. I did enjoy this quite a bit though. I didn't see any of it coming. I didn't really expect the things that were happening to happen. So this was quite a solid thriller, I thought. After that, okay, this is one that I had probably the most thoughts about. I read I Love You But I'd Chosen Darkness by Vaye Watkins. I think that this is autofiction, which mostly I really enjoy. It's about a woman who's recently become a mother and she struggles with postpartum depression. She feels very disconnected from herself, I feel. She is also an author and she gets invited to speak at this school in Reno. And being away from her family and her everyday life makes her very reflective, and I feel like she reflects on her life, on if she is a good mother. She doesn't feel like a natural mother. It doesn't come natural to her to be a mother to her child. So after the speaking engagement, she doesn't return home. She kind of runs away to the desert. She thinks a lot about her parents, her upbringing, her dead boyfriend. Her dad was also part of the Charles Manson cult, which is something that I didn't expect from this book, but I really enjoyed the storyline. It reminded me of like the perfect mix of The Girls by Emma Cline and Fake Accounts by Lauren Euler, one of which I really enjoyed and the other one I really didn't. While reading this book, I took some notes. For some reason, this was really, really thought-provoking. I had a lot of things that I didn't want to forget and I wanted to talk about. So I put that this book felt like a fever dream. The sense of place was really, really strong because it was set in the desert. You could really, really feel the warmth, and I could really picture all the places that she was describing. You could feel how hot it was. Throughout this book, I kept asking myself if this is great and if I love it or if it's just outrageously pretentious. I think it's both, but it was one of those books where I thought about it for like 1-2 weeks afterwards. I kept returning to it in my mind. That is something that I really like when a book does that to me. That's something that I want to get from a book, for it to be thought-provoking and think about my own life. So yeah, I think it was a hit, but not certain. There's some things about this book, like how pretentious it sometimes was, that I just really didn't like. But I think it's one that I want to reread because I listened to this as an audiobook. I feel like sometimes when I listen to something as an audiobook rather than reading it, some things get lost or go over my head a little bit. But even though I was quite invested, I still think that I could get even more from an actual physical reading experience. After that, I read Idol Burning by Usami. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce the author's name. This is a short little novella about a young woman. I think she's about 18. She's a high school student. She feels very lost in her life. She feels like she's failing at everything that she's trying to do. She's not great at school, but she's got this, like, her idol, her celebrity. It's not really a celebrity crush, but just someone that she really idolizes. He is part of a K-pop boy band, and she's got this fan blog about him, and that's something that she really feels like she belongs there, and she's something that she's good at. So it starts off with her idol. I didn't actually know that K-pop celebrities were called idols before this. I had no idea. But it starts off with her idol hitting a fan, and because she feels so connected to this person and she feels like she understands him more than other people, she really has a hard time kind of dealing with this. It's about cancel culture, it's about obsession. It read a little bit YA to me. I thought this was like fully an adult book, but I think because the main character was so young, it read a little bit more YA leaning for me, but I still enjoyed this somewhat. It was a short read, but some of the things I enjoyed, some of the things I was just a bit meh about. The last book I read this month was Animal by Taddeo. This was a wild ride. I didn't really know what to expect from this. I didn't know much about this book going in. I only finished this about an hour ago, so I still feel a bit like, what? Like my thoughts aren't fully formed yet. Honestly, I've only heard kind of lukewarm leaning bad things about this, but one of my friends, Anna, really loved this, and that's kind of the reason that I picked this up. It's about a woman who has an affair with a married man, and one night he shoots himself in the middle of a restaurant in front of her, which then leads her to leave New York for Los Angeles. We also get a lot of childhood flashbacks of her upbringing, what her parents were like. You really feel her sense of powerlessness, but also like her longing for power, and how she experiments all throughout her life, how she might gain power, especially over men, but mostly just in human relationships. The overarching theme of this book, apart from power and all of the trauma that she's experienced throughout her life, is men are trash. This is basically a kill all men book, and I get it. All of the stuff that she's experienced with these men, they're just all completely awful. There's no redeeming qualities. She talks a lot about wanting to kill all these men, and I understand. Overall, there were a lot of things that I didn't really vibe with, but also I was quite invested the whole time. I was interested. The ending was also wild, but again, this is one where I would definitely check the trigger warnings. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And that was everything. That was my January reading wrap up. Some hits, some misses, as always, but the hits were good ones. Thank you as always for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll probably see you in my next video. Goodbye.